The room was quiet, wrapped in the kind of soft morning light that made everything feel unreal, gentle, golden, peaceful. Damien blinked awake to the warmth beside him, his senses slowly registering the soft rise and fall of Elena's breathing. For a moment he just lay there, watching her, taking in the sight of her hair spilled over the pillow, the faint glow on her skin, the delicate way her hand rested close to the twins, who were still curled up asleep beside them both. It hit him all over again. Last night wasn't a dream. She was here. Their children were here. His family, the one he never knew he needed, was here. Elena carefully shifted, trying not to wake the twins, fixing the blanket around their little bodies with a tenderness that made something in Damien's chest ache. She didn't notice he was awake yet, and he took advantage of those few silent seconds to simply look at her. His children, this quiet morning. This is what I want, he thought. Every day, every morning, every year of his life. His children, their family. A sense of certainty settled deep inside him, firmer than anything he had ever felt in the boardroom, firmer than any billion-dollar decision. For the first time in his life, Damien Cole knew what he wanted without hesitation. Move them into my home, marry her, be a real father, protect them from my uncle no matter the cost. Elena finally noticed he was awake. Their eyes met softly. "Good morning," she whispered, careful not to disturb the twins' sleep. "Morning," he replied, voice low, still husky from sleep. He couldn't help the small smile tugging at the corner of his lips. "You look beautiful." She gave him a quiet, shy look, the kind she never used to give him before last night. "Damien." He stretched slightly, one hand brushing the twins' tiny feet affectionately before shifting his gaze back to her. The intimacy in the room wasn't just physical. It was emotional, real, and he didn't want it to end. He cleared his throat, trying to keep his voice casual, but the weight of what he was about to say hovered between them. "Elena, have you ever thought about what it would be like if we maybe got married?" Her breath caught just slightly, not from fear, more from the surprise. "Damien, I'm not pressuring you," he cut in quickly, eyes searching hers with a sincerity she had rarely seen from him. "I'm just thinking out loud, about our kids, about us." He swallowed. "About finally doing things right." She held his gaze, her expression soft but steady. "I love you," she whispered, and he felt his chest tighten. "I feel you. I feel everything you're trying to be for us. But I can't jump that far yet." He nodded, absorbing it quietly. "It's not that I don't want you," she continued gently. "I do. But trust, I need to see it grow. I need to see you with the kids. I need to know you're really staying." He nodded again, firm this time. "That's fair." A slow breath left her, and she reached for his hand under the blanket. Their fingers intertwined, warm and secure. "I'm not saying no," she added softly. "I'm saying, let's let the kids know you first. Let's build this before we name it." Damien squeezed her hand. "Then we'll build it," he whispered. "As long as you're here, I'll wait for everything else." Their eyes held for a long moment. No rush, no fear, no tension from the past. Just a quiet, deeply emotional understanding, the kind that settles into two people who finally realize they're choosing each other. Elena leaned into him slightly, resting her forehead against his. He kissed her gently, slowly, carefully, the kind of kiss that said, "I'll stay as long as you let me." The twins stirred softly, and Elena giggled under her breath. Damien smiled, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear, his thumb lingering on her cheek. Family, their family, and for the first time in a long time the morning felt perfect. The house was unusually quiet that afternoon. The twins were finishing their juice boxes on the living room rug, humming softly as they stacked their little blocks into crooked towers. Elena sat on the couch, her fingers intertwined tightly. Damien stood beside her, not pacing, but close enough to draw courage from her presence. "Kids," Elena began gently, "Mommy and I want to talk to you." Both children looked up immediately, wide-eyed, sensing something important. Damien knelt down to their level. His entire world suddenly felt small, fragile, and resting in the faces of two little humans who shared his eyes. "I want to tell you something," he said softly, his voice steady but warm. "Something very important." The twins shuffled closer. "I didn't know you existed," Damien continued, emotion tightening his chest. "I didn't know you were out here, growing, learning, laughing, needing me. And I'm so sorry for that." Their brows knit in confusion. His daughter blinked slowly. His son tilted his head. Damien swallowed. "If I had known, I would have been here, every day. I would have been your dad from the very beginning." Elena felt her throat tighten as she watched the ache flicker in his eyes. "I want to be in your lives now," Damien said gently. If you'll let me. I want to protect you. I want to take care of you. I want to be your dad." Silence. Small but heavy. Then his daughter moved first. She crawled into his lap slowly, cautiously, like she wasn't sure if she was allowed. Damien froze, breath catching. His son followed, leaning against his shoulder. Elena pressed a hand to her mouth. "Are you mad at me?" Damien asked, voice breaking. "No," his daughter whispered. "Are you scared?" he asked them. "A little," his son admitted. "But happy too." Damien closed his eyes and pulled them close, one arm around each tiny back. It was the first time he held both of his children at once. He didn't let go for a long time. Later that evening, after the twins drifted off for their nap, Elena cleared the plates in the kitchen. Damien stood by the counter, arms folded, jaw tense. Something weighed on him. She recognized the look. "What is it?" she asked. He hesitated. "Elena, you told me something previously. About my uncle. About how he came here once. About how he threatened you." Her hands stilled. "He was angry," she said quietly. "He didn't want the pregnancy. He said you didn't either." Damien's jaw clenched so hard she heard the quiet crack of tension. "Elena," his voice was low, firm. "You and the twins are not staying here. Not another night." She blinked. "Damien, it's not about comfort," he said, stepping closer. "And it's not about me wanting control. This is about safety. My uncle is unpredictable, dangerous when cornered. And he's losing his grip now that I've cut him off." Elena shook her head. "Damien, I can't just pack up my children and walk into your house like I'm depending on you for everything. I've raised them alone. I can't lose myself now." He softened immediately. "Elena." He reached for her hand but waited until she gave it. "I'm not asking you to depend on me. I'm asking you to let me protect my family." She looked away, torn between pride and fear. "I won't force anything," Damien continued. "I won't control where you go or who you see. I won't make decisions for you. You still lead your life. I need to know you and the twins are somewhere safe." Her breath trembled. "No pressure," he said quietly. "Just safety. Just let me keep my children and the woman I love out of danger." The woman I love. Her heart tightened like a fist. She closed her eyes for a moment, thinking about the twins curled against him, the sincerity in his voice, the shadows of fear she still carried about his uncle. When she opened her eyes, "Okay," she whispered. "We'll move in. For their safety." Damien exhaled like someone who had been underwater for too long. "Thank you," he said, voice low. "You won't regret it." She wasn't sure what the future held. But as his thumb brushed her hand gently, and his gaze softened with something she could finally trust, she hoped just maybe she wouldn't. The move happened quietly, without ceremony. Just a small suitcase, 2 sleepy children, and Elena's heart beating too fast as Damien opened the massive double doors of his mansion. The twins stepped in first, their little shoes tapping against the polished marble floor as they clutched each other's hands. They moved slowly, shyly, staring at the tall ceilings, the chandeliers, the sweeping staircase that looked like something out of a movie. Damien kept a soft distance behind them, smiling every time they gasped in wonder. Elena walked beside him, shoulders tense, trying to pretend she wasn't overwhelmed. She had lived her entire life in small apartments, modest spaces. This felt unreal. The house staff whispered as they passed, curious eyes flicking from Elena to the twins, then to Damien, who had never brought a woman, let alone children, into his home. He ignored the whispers completely. In fact, he looked proud. Fully, openly, unmistakably proud. Every time one of the kids peeked into a new room, Damien lit up like someone had just gifted him air. The bedroom for the twins was warm and filled with soft toys he had ordered earlier that day. A tiny gasp left his daughter's mouth as she hugged a stuffed bear. His son touched the bookshelf in awe. "Do you like it?" Damien asked carefully. They nodded, eyes shining. Later that night, Elena stood in the doorway of the children's room as Damien sat on the floor beside their small beds, a storybook open on his lap. He read softly, doing the character voices terribly, but the twins giggled anyway. Halfway through the story, his daughter whispered, "Daddy, turn the page." Damien froze. A breath stuttered out of him. Elena felt her throat burn as she watched the moment settle over him like something sacred. He recovered quickly, smiling with trembling pride as he continued reading. When they fell asleep, the twins curled toward him like they had always known him. Damien tucked the blankets around them and whispered good night with a tenderness Elena had never heard from him before. And she stood there, silent, watching the ruthless billionaire soften into something warm, gentle, and completely undone. When he rose and turned toward her, their eyes met in the dim glow of the night light. Something pulsed between them, slow, warm, magnetic. She could feel his gratitude, his longing, his quiet awe of the little family filling his mansion for the first time. Damien took a step closer. "Thank you," he whispered, "for giving me this." Elena's breath caught, her heart knocking against her ribs, because she could feel it too. The shift, the closeness, the danger of wanting him again. The tension coiled gently between them, deepening the more they stood there in the soft half-dark. At the beginning of something neither of them could pretend away anymore. Damien didn't sleep that night. He sat alone in his study with only the dim desk lamp glowing, the house silent as Elena and the twins slept peacefully upstairs. He kept checking his phone, waiting for the message he knew would come. Hours passed, but he didn't move. Eventually, just past midnight, a notification flashed across the screen. The personal investigators he had hired, quietly, discreetly, without his uncle ever noticing to investigate his uncle and board members he was close to, had delivered everything. A thick envelope arrived at the gate minutes later, brought in by security. Damien tore it open, his heartbeat steady but heavy. Inside were printed documents, photocopies of contracts, bank statements, handwritten notes, and a USB drive full of video recordings, audio files, and old surveillance tapes the investigators had managed to retrieve. He exhaled slowly, bracing himself. Then he began. He went through every single document, every line, every date, every signature. What he found made his stomach tighten. Shady off-book transactions. Money funneled from Cole Global Holdings into shell companies. Board decisions manipulated behind his back. Deals purposely sabotaged so Damien would look incompetent. He saw the evidences of the board members who were the allies to his wrongdoing which harmed the company. Damien planned to remove them, but not now. He needs to be strategic with this. His uncle, his own blood, had been stealing from the company for years. But the worst part came when he watched an old video recording, shaky but clear enough. His uncle speaking to someone about scaring the girl off. Elena. Making sure she never resurfaced. Making sure Damien never found out about the twins. A cold, controlled fury washed through him. Damien leaned back, swallowing hard. He had been right to hire the investigators. Everything he suspected was true, and worse. But along with the anger came something else. Disappointment. A deep one. He didn't have anyone. Not really. His parents had died years ago, leaving him as the only child. No siblings, no cousins, no true family except the uncle who had raised him with a smile in public and a knife behind his back. And now he suspected even that. His parents' accident. The timing. The sudden power shift. Damien had never wanted to believe it. But tonight, Reading through these files, he felt it in his bones. His uncle might have had a hand in it. The realization hit him harder than he expected. The only person he had ever absolutely trusted, other than his best friend Tyler, was the man who wanted him destroyed. But Tyler was abroad, dealing with his family's business, unreachable for now. Damien rubbed his face with both hands and let out a long breath. Trust. He had so little of it left. Except Elena, the only person who had never asked him for anything. The mother of his children. The woman he loved, not because she gave him peace, but because she was the only place where his heart didn't feel like a battlefield. She was steady, honest, real, and she didn't even know how much he depended on that. A thought formed, slow and certain. He could trust her. She had the background, accounting, finance. She wasn't just capable. She was the only person in his life who didn't have an agenda. He imagined her as the CFO of Cole Global Holdings one day, not because she needed the title but because he wanted her there, by his side, in the company, in the decisions, in his life. And if she needed training, exposure, guidance, he would make sure she had all of it. Everything she needed to step into that future. Damien looked down at the scattered evidence on his desk and felt something settle in his chest. He may not have a big family, but he had one now, Elena and the twins. And he would protect them with everything in him. His uncle thought he was winning. He had no idea. Damien planned to make him pay. And this time, he wasn't fighting for his company. He was fighting for his family. Damien noticed the shift in his uncle's demeanor the moment he entered his office the next morning. The usual smugness was there, but now it was tinged with suspicion, an edge of unease that hadn't existed before. "Why are you suddenly hiding things from me?" his uncle asked, leaning back in his chair, a hint of venom in his voice. Damien looked at him evenly, coldly, letting the silence stretch. Then, finally, he said, "You'll find out soon." There was no fear in his tone, only quiet, controlled power. His uncle's eyes flickered, but Damien turned away before letting him see any more, already planning his next steps. Later that day, Damien called Elena into his study. The twins were napping upstairs, giving them a rare moment alone. He took her hands gently, looking deep into her eyes. "Rumors are everywhere," he began. "The media won't stop, and I can't hide them any longer. But this isn't about them. It's about us. I want to openly acknowledge our children. I want you by my side. Not for image, but for protection, for our family." His voice was steady but carried a weight of emotion that made Elena's heart tighten. He continued, offering her not just words, but tangible security. A role in finance, shares in Cole Global Holdings, full security, and independence within the company. Elena's eyes widened, the offer impressive but intimidating. "I'll do this," she said softly, "but only if a contract is signed first. I want to make sure, if anything ever changes, I can leave without fight, the children stay safe, and you don't control my life." Damien's chest lifted with relief. He smiled warmly, taking the contract as a promise rather than a restriction. "Agreed," he said instantly. "Everything you want, Elena. Always." She exhaled, tension leaving her shoulders as their hands squeezed together. The unspoken bond between them stronger than ever. Damien called for a press conference, determined to put an end to the swirling rumors once and for all. As the cameras clicked and microphones leaned forward, he stepped up, his expression steady, unwavering. "There have been rumors, speculation, and questions about my personal life," he began, his voice carrying across the room. "It's time the truth is known. I have children, and Elena is their mother. We are building a family together, and she is my wife." Elena's face flushed at the boldness and romance of his declaration, her heart racing as the world witnessed him claim her and their children so openly. Damien held her hand gently as he continued. "Elena and I have known each other for 4 years. She is the love of my life, and our family is my greatest priority." The media erupted with flashes and questions, but Damien remained calm, his gaze fixed on Elena, proud and protective. His uncle, watching from the sidelines, seethed with rage. realizing Damien had taken the ultimate control by making his family's happiness public and untouchable. Elena squeezed his hand, overwhelmed by the love and security he had just proclaimed to the world. Damien's uncle, seething from Damien's bold public declaration, decided to call in Katie, his longtime mistress and previously failed pawn. She had been his uncle's tool before, the one he had plotted to marry to Damien, with the plan to drug and poison him so that the family fortune would fall entirely into his uncle's hands. Damien's refusal and insistence had foiled that scheme, leaving Katie bitter but still bound to the uncle by ambition and greed. Now, with Elena back in the picture and two young heirs, Damien's children, standing in the way of the uncle's control over Cole Global Holdings, he decided to take another chance. Katie was summoned not only to seduce Damien, as she had tried before, but also to manipulate him into marriage and, if necessary, harm the twins. She was his uncle's sex partner, loyal only to wealth and power, seeing this as her shot to become the first lady of Cole Global Holdings. Her loyalty to him was calculated, her desire for status absolute, and Damien had already anticipated that she might be sent. Still, the thought of what she could attempt only steeled him further. He had prepared, layered with security, surveillance, and contingency plans, ready to counter every move Katie and his uncle could make. While they plotted in shadows, Damien silently vowed that no one, not even his own uncle, would ever harm his family again. Elena had settled seamlessly into her new role in the finance department, working closely under the guidance of the CFO and gradually taking on more responsibilities as Damien personally ensured she was being trained and mentored. She enjoyed every moment, discovering just how skilled and talented she truly was in accounting and finance. Reflecting on her life, she could hardly believe she was working at Cole Global Holdings, one of the top finance and tech companies in the world. She felt a deep sense of security and pride, though she couldn't help but notice the constant presence of security, always guarding her and the children. At first, it had felt absurd, but now she realized it was necessary to keep them safe. The thought of ever doubting Damien's ability to protect her and the twins seemed laughable. He had been vigilant, alert, and always one step ahead, even uncovering the uncle's latest plan involving Katie. Elena had witnessed firsthand how Katie's attempt to poison Damien failed spectacularly, and how every manipulative scheme the uncle orchestrated was falling apart. She felt relief and happiness she hadn't known in years, secure in the knowledge that Damien was always watching over them. Thanks to Damien, she now had the resources to hire a nanny to care for the children, and she enjoyed the privilege of picking them up from school herself before leaving them in safe hands. Their school, backed by Damien's sponsorship and influence, allowed for top-tier protection, ensuring the twins were safe even in school. Meanwhile, Damien's uncle, frantic and desperate after seeing his schemes unravel, made his boldest move yet. He attempted to kidnap the twins. He thought he could strike before Damien's vigilance caught him, but Damien had anticipated every possible angle. Security had been doubled, trackers placed on every vehicle and personal item, and every communication of his uncle's monitored. As the uncle and Katie moved in, thinking they had the element of surprise, Damien's trap snapped shut. Law enforcement, tipped off and ready, intercepted them immediately. The uncle was arrested on multiple counts, his plans fully exposed, and sentenced to prison for life as Damien also exposed and submitted evidence of him of other serious crimes he committed. While Katie, exposed as his willing accomplice and manipulator, was blacklisted and humiliated. The board members who were accomplices of his uncle were also arrested and punished according to the law. They were removed from the board. Elena collapsed in Damien's arms, tears flowing freely, shaking from the fear and relief of having her children safe. Damien held her tightly, pressing his lips to her forehead, whispering with unshakable resolve, "I will never let anyone touch our family again." Elena clung to him, feeling the weight of everything they had survived, knowing, in that moment, that nothing could break them as long as they were together. The day had finally come. After months of fear, scheming, and uncertainty, life had settled into a rhythm of safety, love, and family. Damien knew it was time. He had waited patiently, ensuring Elena, the twins, and their world were secure. This time, Elena agreed wholeheartedly. No contracts, no hesitation, only love. The wedding was everything Damien had imagined and more. The grand hall shimmered with elegant decorations. Flowers cascaded in soft pinks and whites, and golden candlelight flickered across the polished floors. Classical music floated gently, setting a romantic, timeless tone. The twins, dressed impeccably, walked down the aisle as ring-bearers, holding their roles with shy pride. Guests wiped tears from their eyes, caught in the beauty of the moment, but Damien's eyes were fixed on Elena. When she appeared at the end of the aisle, radiant in a gown that hugged her figure and trailed behind her like liquid silk, he felt tears prick at the corners of his eyes. Her gaze met his, and in that instant the world outside ceased to exist. They exchanged vows that came straight from their hearts, words of love, trust, and unbreakable commitment. And when they kissed, the room erupted in cheers and applause, celebrating not only their union but the triumph of love over every obstacle. Later, after the celebration, Damien carried Elena into their room. The soft glow of dimmed lights bathed the space in warmth, gentle music playing in the background. They moved slowly, savoring every touch and every whispered word. There was no rush, only the deep, intimate connection they had fought so hard to protect. Damien held her close, their hearts beating in perfect sync, and as they finally rested in each other's arms, he whispered against her hair, "This is exactly where I always wanted you to be." Elena, her voice soft and filled with quiet certainty, replied, "And this is exactly where I choose to be." The world outside faded, leaving only their love, their family, and the perfect, endless night. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Your thoughts mean a lot to me, and trust me, the next story will be even better. You won't want to miss it. Turn on the notification bell so you're the first to know.